Health Science and Technology Institute under DBT has been actually conducting activities which are actually focused on the researchers. In various ways, they are being trained by the Clinical Development Service Agency, which is under THSTI. And therefore, it was felt that we should do something more than the usual GCP training. So the THSTI has actually launched a program during the 75th year of Freedom of India, which was launched by Dr. Renu Swarup, who was the former secretary of DBT. And this is supposed to be actually an international, based on an international personal certification, and perhaps the first in the world to state. That is ISO 17024/2012. And this actually focuses on training the institutes, again on ISO requirements, and the individuals, the researchers, on ISO requirements. So far, one institute has actually got certified as a training institute. And I understand that THSTI is actually having MOU with the NHIW. To start the training. So far, actually 4 webinars were held to create awareness of this program. And this is the 5th one that is there. And earlier webinars had 400 to 500 plus registrants. So the interest seems to be there. So they're going to now start the activity in full, I suppose from April onwards. So with that, I would actually wish the program all success. And over to you, Sonia.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful words and to share the history of GCPPCS, how it started and how we are going as of now. This is our 5th webinar and we are doing really well. We have been getting a lot of inquiries regarding the certification scheme. One more thing I need to just clear here, that it is not a course, it is a certification program. Like certification, we are the scheme owners and it is a certification. It gives you certification. So you are being certified here. Now, moving onwards, I'll invite Dr. Sucheta Banerjee Kurunkar here to give you the brief about GCPPCS overview, how it started, what is the meaning of it, how it started, how it is segregated into 2 parts, like the basic of it. Hello, Dr. Sucheta, are you? I can see you, but your mic is off.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah,
hi.
yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Hi, Namaskar. Good afternoon. Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to again thank Dr. Nandini K. Kumar for being a part of this first in globe initiative that we say, and it makes a lot of it to us to drive with people like her in the in this drive. So Namaskar once again. To state that just now what Sonia was speaking, this is not a GCP, this is a awareness to help you understand what is GCP PCS, so that you can take a decision, which is a voluntary decision, whether you want to upgrade or embark upon a journey of certification. And this personal certification is under a scheme called GCPPCS, which is Good Clinical Practice Professional Certification Scheme. Over the 2 hours now today, me and my colleagues will try our level best to ensure that you have a pretty good understanding of what we are trying to tell. This is indeed the first in globe opportunity, so there's a huge scope for us to improve. All of you who are attending this, I assume that you know what is GCP. Good clinical practice. It is a mandatory requirement for all ethics committee members who are in different hospitals, medical colleges, and research institutes, where they review proposals for clinical trials, clinical research, PG thesis. It becomes mandatory as per the CDSCO NDCT rules, New Drugs and Clinical Trial Rules 2019. When we were, CDSA has been in this domain for more than 12 years now, and we had been training GCP over these years, and we found that there's no uniformity in the system. So we found that if there is a system which is based on various regulations which are necessary for our country, namely which are presented in the slide, and if you are able to make people trained on a uniform level, then it will bring a lot of enhance the quality and bring in uniformity. This was a big task. Then we started thinking about, is there any certification scheme or system existing where we can be a part of that? And that was the genesis of this. My meeting, Anil Johri ji, when he was the CEO of NABCB, National Accreditation Board for Certification Bodies at Quality Council of India, and he suggested the idea of coming up and embarking 17024. Initially, we were thinking that if somebody does it, it's better. We also thought about whether we should be doing it or somebody else should be doing. I'm thankful to our then executive director, who had been very cognizant about it and took this effort to ensure that we are able to start this system, which is first in the world. As rightly said and mentioned by Professor Dr. Nandini K. Kumar, this was dedicated to nation on 75th India's Independence Day, and you can see how it brought in a lot of responsibility and, of course, accountability to us. We always wonder why we have taken up this up and why not somebody else. So we thought that if somebody doesn't do, then there has to be somebody who assumes a higher role and initiates the process. And it's a very big responsibility, and we have been always seeing things being done by CDSA, things done by others and other countries, but we haven't seen something like this being done by India. In Indian scenario, if we see such schemes, there are various types of schemes. There are regulated schemes by various sectors, and there are voluntary schemes by various sectors. We form under the voluntary schemes, just like the yoga certifications, just like various things which you can see in the forest certification schemes. So this is GCPPC is an example set by others. I was mentioning about the SWOT analysis that we did before we embarked off on journey, and we wanted to do some competency-based certification system, which we will discuss today. When we did a survey, we did find that this is first of its kind, such kind of personal certification system for anybody in the field of clinical research or clinical trial domain. If you know anybody who has been doing it earlier than us, please do let us know. There are two parts of this, and we'll discuss it in the next slide. This is when we met Dr. Raghuvanshi ji, who is our present Drugs Controller General India, mentioning about GCPPCS and seeking the support from the regulators to make this possible and viable. So this is about the assessment scheme, which my teammates and colleagues will be speaking. It is knowledge, skill, and attitude. A very important flowchart to ponder upon. CDSA THTI is the scheme owner, and we have been hugely supported by NABCB Quality Council for this 17024 certification scheme. And you see that there are two arms of this. The personal certification bodies, that means the NECU, the Northeastern Christian University here, who are there with us today. For example, if you think that certified already and do not require training and have the confidence to undergo this, you can directly RCBs like NECU and seek for GCP certifications through their system of competency assessment. If you're GCP trained, but you have a confidence building or you want to retrain yourselves, there are training institutes. We have National Institute of Health and Family Welfare in New Delhi, who are under our training institutions wing, and you can take GCP there and come back to the PRCB. Eventually, you will have to come to a personal certification body for the certifications. GCP training can be taken from anybody, but CDSA THSJ approves few training institutions and personal certification bodies, which are listed on our website. If you see at the why this certification is of interest. That means if you have the certification here in India, this is having an international equivalence in any place in the world. Is a signatory of International Accreditation Forum through a MLA or multilateral recognition arrangement, and they have been a backbone or strength behind this certification scheme. And you can see how the certification scheme runs through international equivalence, where we have created or we have developed a minimum standard of competence, which my colleague Dr. Sanish is going to speak in the next session, which is based on primarily various areas, including the ICH GCP 6R2. When R3 comes, we'll incorporate that. It will continuously be upgraded and it will be a dynamic document. And this entire GCP PCS is not based only by CDSA THSTI. There's a huge team behind it. We have a multi-stakeholder steering committee at Apex level, which is chaired by Anil Johri. A technical committee, we have chairs, assessment committees, review and decision panel, where Dr. Nandini K. Kumar comes, technical committee where I come, assessment committee where Johri as well as Devjani comes, and an appellate authority, which is based in the Secretariat of GCPPCS, where is steering the entire or is the governance structure behind this. There's a website which helps us to understand things better. We continually improve. And if you have any feedback which will help us to make better, please do not hesitate to share your feedback with us. Thank you so much for your time and attention. And I'm sure you will be able to learn a lot of things today. This is the NECU page for the PRCB, who are our first PRCB in India. And this is our first signing of National Institute of Health and Family Welfare's MOU, which is our first TI in the scheme. And you will see that close to 1,500 people, with today 530 people more plus who has been enrolled and registered. Unfortunately, only 100 can join this, where otherwise the others who are joining are through YouTube Live. And we are happy to have welcome our YouTube joinees or participants also. And we all wish you that you take up things to continually improve yourselves, as we sign off by saying that if you have a choice, then choose the best. But if you don't have a choice, then please try to do the best. Thank you, namaskar, and jai.
Thank you, ma'am, for the kind introduction and all the overview on GCP PCS. Meanwhile, actually, ma'am has finished very early. So we still have 15 minutes to go for the next session. And on the back end, I'll try to speak to the speaker if he can join early. Just one more announcement I need to make here, that if somebody has any questions, any inquiries related to the program, they can start writing to the comment box. And I know some of you are in the panic mode. They are losing their Zoom link connection. The only problem is that we have been allowed only 100 participants. So that for the rescue thing, we have been lucky to have the YouTube Live also. So you guys don't worry about the attendance. Just write your name at both the places. I'll verify it and I'll give you the certifications after that, certificates for attending the awareness program. So don't panic at all. And one more thing is there, if you have any questions related to the program, related to anything you need to ask, you can write in the comment box. I am along with the webinar, I'm maintaining the database for the questions, and we will be ready with your answers at the Q&A session. So yeah, you guys can start writing your questions.
So Sonia, I can see the Professor Devjani here with us. If we can swap the session, if that is okay, then we can think about this. I do not know. I was not aware that I have been more than early, because I think both I and ma'am, we were very fast with that, just in the interest of saving time.
I'm just speaking to Dr. Sanish. Let me speak to him. If he can join in a minute or two, then it is fine. Otherwise, we will start with Dr. Devjani.
Yeah, Dr. Devjani, will you be ready with that? Are you there with us? Dr. Devjani, are you there with us? In meantime, I would like to reiterate what I just now mentioned is this is not a GCPPCS training program. This is not a GCPPCS certification program. This is an awareness program to understand GCPPCS so that you can aspire. And if you want to take GCPPCS certification, then you can take the next action or move. Thank you.
If we have time, Sucheta, maybe I can explain the basis of
Yeah,
the
that will be
scheme.
good. I think
Yes,
Devjani,
please, sir. Please, sir.
Okay, so let me fill in this gap in time by explaining to you what GCPPCS is. The old concept of competence was that you have a degree in engineering or science or something, you have 5 years or 10 years work experience, and you are considered to be competent. Increasingly, the modern concept of competence is changing. Now, it says that competence means having the right knowledge and skills and having the ability to apply that knowledge and skills in your work. So, ISO 17024, which has been referenced in the scheme, actually requires that we define the knowledge and skills and we evaluate that knowledge and skills. So this GCP PCS is based on this fundamental principle that the knowledge and skills needed has been defined, and then evaluation method has been defined. And if you are evaluated and you clear the evaluation, you are certified. So it does not matter what is your background, from where you acquire this knowledge and skills. You acquire it through training, you acquire it by self-study, you acquire it through experience. It is immaterial. We have prescribed no entry barrier at all. Anybody who thinks that he has the knowledge and skills which is defined in this minimum standard of competence, which Dr. Sanish will speak about, he can come forward, go to a designated personal certification body. In this case, Northeast Christian University is the only one right now. We are expecting couple more things shortly, and then you can get certified if you clear the evaluation. Since GCP is more about knowledge, the evaluation is an exam. If there was lot of skill involved, then there is a practical demonstration also. For example, if you go for a yoga teacher certification or yoga instructor certification, you are not only supposed to have knowledge, but you are also supposed to have the skill to perform the yoga asanas. In case of GCP, the knowledge component is very high, and therefore an evaluation like an exam can be done and you can be certified. So this is how the scheme is structured. So it's not a course, as was said by Sonia earlier and Sucheta also, that THSTI CDSA is not running a training course. It is running a certification scheme based on knowledge and skills and evaluation of those knowledge and skills. That too, it does not do directly. In line with international models of schemes, given the size of the country and given that we feel that this might also be useful outside the boundaries of this country because it's based on ICS standards, which are international standards. You create a scheme, you become a scheme owner, you recognize multiple certification bodies who are prepared to come into this and certify individuals. So in this case, we have, as of now, one personal certification body approved, which is NECU. Hopefully we'll have more. So there will be multiple choices. Right now, you can go to NECU and get certified. Any of you who feels today after this webinar, listening to Dr. Sanish, that you have this knowledge which has been prescribed in this scheme, and you're confident that you can clear any evaluation, please go ahead, go to NECU, get yourself as an applicant, get yourself evaluated, get certified. You don't have to undergo any training. Training is a support. Since some people would need training, training is a support for this scheme, but not the essential part of the scheme. There is no essential prescription that you must have training before you get certified. So this is how this system operates worldwide these days. In fact, many of you are aware that Ministry of Skill Development has initiated some years back a massive program of skill development through sector skill councils. And those sector skill councils have defined job profiles, defined the knowledge and skills for each job profile, and then have similar assessment bodies. They have what is called assessment bodies, we call personal certification bodies, who are certifying individuals. This is especially useful where there may not be formal education. For example, I am an engineer, I have got an engineering degree. Somebody may be a doctor, he's got a MBBS degree. You may have an MSc, a PhD. So where there is formal education, there is more assurance that you have the knowledge. But in areas where there is no formal education or less formal education, let's say, for example, good clinical practice, there may not be any formal education. Or yoga, you know that yoga, all kinds of training programs all over the world are going on, 200 hour, 500 hour. So you could acquire that knowledge and skill through any of the routes. So this competence system of 70024 is even more relevant to areas where there may not be formal education. For example, welders can be certified, masons can be certified, plumbers can be certified using this model where you do not have to prescribe any formal education. And therefore, when it came to GCP, which is not formally taught perhaps extensively, we decided that this model suits it best when we define the knowledge and skills. And this is the basic level of knowledge and skills that we have rolled out right now. In future, there might be a higher level of advanced level of certification as well, which is in our mind. But right now, first, we want that we should get this going, and then only we should go to the another level of this. So as basic knowledge of GCP, as a proof that you have the basic knowledge of GCP, we have created this scheme in the hope that this will be useful to people who are involved where GCP is a requirement, for example, in clinical trials. So this is the fundamental basis. It should be understood clearly that CDSA, THSTI is neither certifying directly nor training directly. It owns the entire system, under which there will be designated certification bodies where you can go and get yourself certified. There will be recognized training institutions where in case you need training, you can go and have training. But again, for certification, you will go to a designated personal certification body, clear that evaluation, and get yourself certified. So I hope I have made this clear. In case you have any questions, I think you can ask right away.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening so much with the GCPPCS knowledge and awareness. And I just request everyone, if they still have any questions, they still have any inquiries, they can write to us in the comment box.
So if Dr. Sanish is still awaited, maybe we can ask Dr. Devjani to go ahead and start the process, certification process.
Yes, please.
Yeah, hello.
Hi,
Uh,
hi.
Good
We can hear you.
afternoon.
I would just request Dr. Devjani to wait because Dr. Sanish is just joining in next minute.
Okay,
So
fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've not spoken to him, like he was not available that time. So if you want, I can speak to him that he can start half an hour later. But he said that I'll join in 1 minute.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, can
Yeah,
you
he
hear
has
me?
joined already. Yeah. A very good afternoon, sir.
There's still some issue with my video and other stuff, so I don't know.
Yeah, a very good afternoon, sir.
Tanish, should you like to wait and let Devjani do it till the time you handle the computer related issues? Do you think that is a good
No,
idea?
if you can see my screen, then I think we are good to
No,
start.
we
Not
cannot
yet.
see your screen.
Not yet, sir. We cannot see.
Okay. Let me know.
There are a lot of questions coming in the chat box. Let me ensure that by the end of the day, majority of your questions will get automatically addressed through this program. If it
Yeah.
still remains, we have a quite an elaborate open forum for quality question answers. We will ensure that nobody, leaves the room leaves
Yeah, with
today's
any
program
query,
without
yeah.
questions unanswered. It is
Just
blank. It is black
Yeah, it
and
is
blank.
very slow. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. There's some issue with you could say the presentation
If you have
being
an issue, Sanish, you can ask Sonia to share the screen and maybe you can speak something like that.
Do
Or
you
maybe
have
handle
my
handle
earlier
it, or
presentation?
maybe
So I have your previous slides. If there's no change, I can share.
Yeah, if we can do that. Yeah, thank you.
Just give me a second. Give me a second.
in the meantime, Sanish, you can start speaking. Is it possible for you to switch on your video? This is being recorded on YouTube Live. Do you have any issues with this?
No, my video is on as per my laptop, so
Okay.
I don't know why it is not showing.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy, actually. Anyway, so maybe let me start speaking. So thank you once again for the opportunity on behalf of THSTI to actually talk about the GCPPCS program. I will talk about the minimum standard of
I do not know why we have lost the voice. Is it
Yeah.
only me who has lost the voice? Sanish, can I request you to log out and log in and handle this by the time we complete with Debjani, if that is okay?
One more
I
question
think
is there.
Sanish is
Can you see my
frozen.
presentation? Can you see the presentation on the screen?
No,
Because I've
No.
shared it on my
Okay.
end.
I think something,
Some issues there, I guess.
yeah, something issue is with only Sanish. Yeah, now we can see, Sonia, we can see your presentation. You
But
can go.
yeah, it is
Yes.
there. Participants can now see your application. Okay, then it is fine. Maybe
Now
he's
we can see.
getting some connection. Yeah.
Sonia, we can see your presentation. It is there.
No
Only
problem, ma'am.
Sanish
Yeah,
has to
yeah.
speak. If Sanish is having problem, we can go ahead with Debjani,
Yeah.
and Sanish can come back by logging out and logging in.
No problem, ma'am.
Just wanted to save everybody's time.
Sonia, can you hear me, Sonia?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear
Actually,
you.
you also keep my presentation ready because my connectivity is constantly going away and saying capacity full. So in case it happens, you at least have the presentation ready. I
Ma'am,
can
I'll just check.
share
I'll
my
just check.
screen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll just check. It is certification process. Okay.
And it's the same thing, you have it. So I'll try and
Yeah.
share if it works fine, but it continuously, time to time, it's showing capacity full.
Yeah, ma'am. Actually, the thing is,
Sanish, can we hear you? If it is not possible, let us go ahead with Debjani. I personally feel we shouldn't be keeping people waiting.
I just received a message from his end that he's saying he's restarting his computer.
Yeah,
due to
yeah.
the network
Is it?
issue. So,
Can you stop
Debjani,
sharing?
ma'am, we can
Yeah.
start yours. Yeah, I'm just
No,
a minute.
if he's starting his computer, shall we wait or what?
No,
do
no,
you
no.
want?
It is
ma'am,
better.
you
No, no,
can-
better. Dr.
it is
Debjani, let
better
us
to-
start.
Okay.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Just
I'm
wait.
looking for your presentation. Just give me a second. Give me a second.
No, let me see if I can share
Yeah,
it
ma'am,
from
you
here.
also please try, and I'm also trying on
Yeah,
my
let
end.
me
Yeah.
see, let me see. Just give me a time.
Dr. Debjani, like Sanish, we cannot see you also either.
Can you see my presentation? At least
Yes,
you
we can
can
see
see it.
Yes.
Okay, only thing is that somewhere I have to make it full screen and that's not allowing me.
Ma'am,
No,
you
you-
have to enable your
Okay,
presentation.
okay. Yeah. I'm
Please
doing
enable your
that.
presentation
Yeah,
format and then
now
you'll
it
be
has
able
come.
to.
Can you
Yeah,
see
yeah.
full screen now?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes,
No,
ma'am.
I had actually stopped my video, so you can.
That's no
You
problem.
really
That's no
need to
problem.
see me, or I can speak anyway. Shall I start? Yeah.
Please, thank you.
I also received your presentation. Like I've also found it. If there's any
No,
problem, I
yeah,
can
so I'll.
manage at this end. No
Yeah,
problem.
okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
very good afternoon once again. And we are trying to save time. In fact, it is always better for me to speak after Sanish has spoken because he would have explained the minimum standard of competency, but still we will just go ahead with this. So what I am going to speak today is regarding the certification process for GCP professionals. So basically we have an enormous number here. The GCP professionals who are interested in this scheme, I suppose, and for them, if anything is unclear, we are always there to explain explain, and I will try and put my presentation as clear as possible, but I definitely know there would be questions, so we will be too happy to address them later on. So the title is Certification Process. Okay. Now, this is not moving. Okay, so this is just a disclaimer. So that's a mandatory thing. When we make a presentation, we do it. So I'm just going fast, and I've already spoken that you can put your questions and we'll try and address them as much as possible. You can put it in the chat box. And there we start. So as Mr. Jury has already introduced the GCPPCS, which is a Good Clinical Practice Professional Certification Scheme. And he did give a sort of a brief introduction about the scheme and how it is to be operated and what are the nuances of it. So taking that thing, I'm going ahead after that what is the international scenario in the present times for any certification scheme, or so to say, the certifications that GCPPCS we are talking about. So most of us, we know that there is an increasing use of standards, and these standards can be for products, services, processes, systems. Products like electrical appliance, that's a product, or any services, health services, any sort of process system management systems. And therefore, these are always the standards are prepared and they are put into practice for reasons of health, safety, environment, national security, unfair trade practices, and there are many, many others. So these are a few names that I have put in. So the standards are very, very important, and they are used widely. And for these standards to be prepared and put into operation, there are two distinct regimes. That is, one is the regulations. Here, most of the GCP professionals would be knowing about regulations and what are the mandatory regulations for the health sector. And there are also some voluntary things which are required, like for example, the GCPPCS is a voluntary standard which has been prepared by THSI, and it has given all the details. So therefore, there are, as I said, there are requirements, and these requirements are based on technical regulations, or as I said, voluntary standards. And how these are checked is basically through conformity assessments. So to give you a brief about conformity assessments, it is nothing but a terminology where we say that, say, for example, for GCPPCS, we have in our written down documents in the standard, we have given the criteria that what are the requirements. And when we just go for the certifications or the assessment, we see that whether all those requirements which have been documented are being complied with, and that is where this is known as, the process is known as conformity assessments. This can happen for inspection regimes, testing like lab testings, and in our case, we are calling it as a certification. So for the GCPPCS, we would talk about certifications. And what does it do? What is the important thing is
ये सर उनका होगा, एक मिनट, जूनियर वालों का सर, जो न्यू वाला।
Jitendra's voice is coming from somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, somewhere. So
नहीं सर,
therefore, through the conformity assessments, when we see that they are being, the standards, the requirements are being complied with, it brings in a confidence that, okay, whomever we are certifying, they are competent, and therefore we have a lot of confidence both for the systems as well as for the people who are certified, because they have the competence to do it, and there's a lot of confidence. So this is the most important part of any conformity assessment system, and for which we need the standards. And Then more than that, this also leads into international acceptability. As Mr. Jody has said earlier to this, that we are following an international standard, which is the ISO 17024, which has been internationally accepted. And if GCP professionals are being certified by under this standard, therefore they get their international acceptability. So this is most important part of thing, that once they're certified, it is known that they're competent to do whatever they're supposed to do. They fulfill all the requirements and the criteria, and they get that recognition. People have confidence in them, and the certificate is accepted internationally. And how it is being done, it is accomplished through accreditation. So that means this is the entire process which goes on. And therefore, as I have already said, that in this GCPPCS, what are we doing? The main thing that we are doing is to certify the people. That is, we are certifying the personnel. Here, in this case, it is the GCP professionals that we are certifying, and therefore it is known as a personal certification. And as we have already said, that this personal certification is following that international standard, which is ISO 17024. And what is the main character or main highlight of this standard is, again, the earlier speaker has spoken about it, that there in this standard says that we actually assess the competence, that is the knowledge and skill. It is not the passing of examinations or showing a certificate that I have my BSc degree, or I have my MSc degree, or I have my PhD degree, or I have got an MBBS degree. Even in spite of having all the degrees, the standard says that you have to show your competence, which means you have the knowledge and the skill, and that needs to be demonstrated. And this demonstration is dependent, like for GCPPCS, the demonstration here is through written exams. But as the earlier speaker said, for yoga professionals, they need a lot of demonstration through practical yoga asanas and other relevant things, because there are other personal certification schemes running across the world, where they will define what is the means of evaluating the competence. And here, competence is knowledge and skill. And again, another highlight of this standard is, or the personal certification standard is, that it does not ask you to show, as I said, the certificates of BSc, MSc, or whatever it is. And you can acquire your knowledge or skill or the competence either through your education or through training or through work experience. So that is the beauty of this standard, and that is the beauty of this personal certification scheme, that you have acquired the competence through any route. But once you can demonstrate that you have your knowledge and skill, that is what is most important, and that is how they get certified, that they have all the knowledge and skill, and they're able to demonstrate, and that is assessed and certified. And therefore, it is a shift from the qualification-based system to a competence-based system. So once you are certified and you are under some sort of agreement, that once you get your certification, here it is THSTI, the THSTI, once you're certified through the assessment of your knowledge and skill, then you will have a written agreement that you will be sort of under surveillance in a way, means you will be signing some sort of agreement that what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do, and that is what the scheme owner will keep track of it. And here I already saw in the chat box, somebody has asked that what is the validity period of the certificate. So once you're certified, this validity of the certificate is for 5 years. And if the person thinks that they are benefited by this certification and they would like to continue, therefore they will have to come back before the validity expires, or before 5 years, and they can once again appear for the same process and get recertified. So here again, there is a difference. In case of the qualification-based system, once you get a certificate, that remains with you lifelong. But here in this case, once you get certified, there is a validity period for the certificate. And before the expiry of the validity period, if you think you're benefited by it, you can come up for recertification, and the same process like what you have followed for certification, the same process will be followed. So this is the highlight of the personal certification. So what is GCPPCS? As I told you, it is following the international model. It has a standard which is described, which is documented, and it is available on the THSI website, the standard. And there is a scheme logo also. You can see on the right-hand side of this screen as well, that is the scheme logo. And it has got a very defined system, and it is also in the website that what does this logo mean or what does it stand for. And then it is all documented how the evaluation of the assessment process will happen. It will be uniform and it is documented. It can be, right now we have one PRCB, that is the Northeastern Christian University. But in future, we are going to have more personal certification bodies who will do the assessment and certify. And therefore, this process is a uniform evaluation process. It has been documented. It can be read on the THSI website, and the certification process is also uniform. And it also, the document also tells that what should be the competence of the PRCB. Anybody can become a PRCB, provided they have all the requirements that is needed to become a PRCB, the personal certification body for this GCPPCS, and they have to follow that requirements, and they will start doing the certifications. And any other measure to promote certification and seek acceptability in both domestic and international market. I have said this is an international standard, and right now we have one PRCB, but we can easily this, as the scheme picks up, we can have international PRCBs also, and the same process will be followed, which has been documented, and it can be read on the THSI website. So there are few terms you will come across continuously. I'm not going into the details, like the scheme owner. Here the scheme owner is THSI. And what is the certification scheme? That is the Good Clinical Professional Certification Scheme. And what is the certification process? That means the certification scheme. When you read the document on the website, you will find they have defined the scope of certification, that the job and the task, what all is required, what are the required competence. I think the next speaker, Dr. Sanish, will be talking more on this, and you'll become much more clear on that after he has finished his presentation also. And the abilities, prerequisites, and there is a very strong code of conduct. So these are the requirements for a certification process. And as I said, I've already spoken about competence, that is the knowledge and skills. And then there is a examiner who would be conducting the examination for the assessments, and if necessary there will be an invigilator who will, everybody knows that for any examinations we will need an examiner, we will need an invigilator, so you can go through these terminologies. I have said the validity of the certificate is for 5 years. And for any examination or anything, the certification process is uniform, and it is very fair, and you can rely on these things. So these are all defined in the standard, which is available on the website. And therefore, now I come, if somebody wants to get certified, how is the certification process going to be? So there should be a registration of application, means people who want to get certified have to apply. Their competence, that is their knowledge and skills, are going to be assessed. Then there is a definite assessment method, and which is uniform across all the personal certification bodies who will be doing the assessments. Then the decision on the certification. Then there is a very definite, defined certification format. And I have said there is a process of surveillance, a recertification. And the surveillance also is because that we should see that the scheme owner should see that people who are certified are following the agreements, what are the do's and don'ts. And if not, the certificate can be suspended, and people will look into it, whether whatever complaints or certain other things have happened, whether it is true or not. And if it is found correct, it may at times the certificate may be cancelled. But if sometimes if the complaints are found not that serious, or people, it is not applicable, then it will be again continued. So these are the few processes which are defined, and everything I've said is all on the website that can be assessed. So this is how the application form is also on the GSTI website along with the fees. That is, and it is also found in the PRCB website. Here in this case, the only approved PRCB is the Northeastern Christian University, and the application form would also be available on the PRCB website. And therefore, you have to fill up the application and submit it. Here, the link is given if you want to download it from the THSTI website as well. And if you have any questions, you can ask the PRCB, you can write a mail, and they're supposed, this is what the beauty of this whole system is, that sometimes we write to people, we keep on waiting to get a response. But here, the document or the GCP stand, what the voluntary standard, there's a defined process that any query to the PRCB, they have to respond within 7 days of receiving the query. The applications, once they are received by the PRCB, they will check for its completeness. If they think there is more information are needed, again, they will write to the applicant within 7 days. It's not that they can sleep over it and come back to you after 30 days. No, every time frame is defined. That is the beauty. All the applications found to be complete once you apply, and if the PRCB finds everything is complete, then the application is to be registered within 7 days of receipt of the application, complete application, and there will be a unique identification number. The number will be acknowledged to the applicant by the PRCB, and the PRCB will maintain all the records. Applications found violating the terms and conditions of GCPPCS will not be processed, which happens everywhere. It is nothing unusual. But the rejection has been, if the PRCB is not accepting, then PRCB has to tell the applicant why it has been rejected, and that too there is a definite time frame of 15 days. Now we continue with this process of registration of applications. Now, if some applicants had applied earlier and for certain reasons their application was not entertained or it was not completed, if they reapply, it will be treated as a fresh application. The PRCB will reject or close all applications under the following conditions. This is also written down, that if deficiencies are observed in the applications, the applicant is informed about it, and the applicant is not completing within 1 month time frame, then it will not be entertained. If the applicant does not take the assessment within 3 months of registration of application, that means it is on both the sides. Like the PRCB is also duty bound, that once they receive the applications and they have given the unique identity number and they have informed, acknowledged, they also have to conduct the assessment within that particular time frame. They cannot just sit over it. If there is any misuse of the certification mark, or if there is an evidence of malpractice, as I told, that once people get certified, they are under agreement of certain things which they should do and certain things they should not do. And if there is any malpractice, then this also can, or any voluntary withdrawal of application that they do not want to continue. So therefore, now the competence assessment, as I said, my next speaker, Dr. Sanish Davis, is going to take up this in detail. I'm just mentioning that the criteria for competence assessment to be as per requirements listed in the minimum standard of competence. A person can have enormous skills and knowledge, but here this voluntary scheme has defined what is the minimum requirement, and they have defined it under 6 domains, and these are protocol, investigation in product development and regulations, ethical considerations, patient safety, well-being, clinical trial operations, study and site management, data management, and informatics. Dr. Davis will speak on this in great details. I have just mentioned the major 6 domains, and the assessment method will be through MCQs for the testing of the knowledge, and there will be some case studies to test the 6 domains. I've just mentioned those 6 domains in my prior slide, and this will be, there are 2 levels, and the basic level will be assessed right now to begin with. There is no negative marking for the basic level assessments, and the overall pass percentage for the successful candidates will be 70%. So this is the assessment method, how it will be done. And what is the scheme also defines what is the requirement to become an examiner. Anybody just cannot say that I am a GCPPCS examiner, but they have to also show what are the competence requirement to become an examiner. Is they should have a postgraduate degree in medical sciences, nursing, pharmaceuticals, biological sciences, biostatistics, and clinical data management. They should have 5 years of work experience in clinical research after receiving the postgraduate degree. They should be GCP trained, and the team of personnel, that means examiners and question paper setters, to have overall collective competence of all 6 domains. So the scheme not only defines a document, not only says what are the requirements for the applicants, but it also has specified, and to be followed uniformly, the examiner competence as well. And what is the assessment process like? THSI, as we have already mentioned, has already approved 1 PRCB right at the moment, and this PRCB will inform the applicants who meet the eligibility criteria, the date of assessments, at least 15 days to the assessment, prior to the assessment date, inform the examiners and the candidates the names well in advance for identification of any conflict of interest. This is what the PRCB is supposed to do. Inform the examination centers the name of the candidates well in advance for identification of any conflict of interest. Communicate examiner's decision to the assessment of the candidates, and maintain an updated register of applicants, candidates, and certified GCP professionals, the scope of certification and the status of certification. The scope of certification is your GCP professional certification, and status means the validity is for 5 years. So when was the certificate issued, until how long the validity is there? So all these will be maintained on the records of the personal certification bodies. It will also be maintained on the THSTI website, And therefore, all data is also in the open domain and people can look at it. And then finally, once the assessment has been done by the examiners, I have already spoken to you the competence requirement to become an examiner. So the assessment has been done, and now the decision of the certification, the PRCB to decide on certification by a competent person independent of the assessment. People who are setting the question papers or people who are the examiners cannot decide on the certification. They will only examine the answer script and give the marks, but an independent person of the PRCB will decide on the certifications, and the PRCB will not grant any conditional certification. Everything has to be completed. There is no condition here. The PRCB to inform the candidate if they fail to meet the acceptance of the criteria for the assessment, and the candidate may take another assessment with the same or another PRCB. Right now we have one, but very soon we'll have many, I suppose, and have to declare, if they are taking a re-examination, they have to declare the previous performance while they are re-applying. Then the certified GCP professionals, if suppose today the GCP professional is in Delhi and during the validity period, the person relocates. So therefore, they have to inform the personal certification body of this change of location, because they have signed the agreement before taking the certificate, and they are also in touch with the PRCB, and the PRCB also keeps a tag through the surveillance method. So therefore, it is important that they will inform the PRCB if they are relocating elsewhere. The validity of the professional certificate is for 5 years. The successful GCP professionals will have a code of conduct. I have said that already, and you sign that agreement with the scheme owners and the PRCB. And if any transition takes place for the standard or any regulatory requirement, this has to be, the scheme will be aligned, and if there are any changes, even the certified personals will be informed, the PRCB will be informed. So any changes also to be informed, and the certified people will be informed about it. The scheme owner informs the approved PRCB of this transition. I was just saying that, and the transition time, there is a particular time that within this period of time, if there are any changes, the changes has to be incorporated. So the PRCB is also duty bound for themselves to align themselves with the changes, and also to inform the certified people if there are any major changes happening. And after that, once the people have successfully taken the assessment and they are successful in getting 70%, they will get a certificate. And the certificate will have the name of the certified person and unique identification code, the name of the certification body, a reference to the certification scheme, that means GCPPCS in this case, the standard, that here the standard is 1702, ISO 17024, and the scope of certification and the effective date and expiry. Everything will be mentioned on the body of the certificate that the successful candidate will be receiving. And this certificate format is also being approved by the scheme owner. And the effective date of the certification will not be before the date of the decisions. Like I said, the PRCB takes the certification decision. Similarly, if there is a recertification decision, the PRCB, once they decide, they take, and it has been approved, then only that date comes on the certificate. I have already mentioned that there's a process of surveillance, and the surveillance is to be conducted during the 3rd year of certification. That means the middle of it is 5 years. So 3rd year is happening the middle of the certification process. And for the certified GCP professionals who has been working constantly in the field of GCP and the certified, they are There will be no surveillance assessment on production of evidence that you have been continuously in this professional and you have been employed somewhere and are working on GCP. And for those who are unable to provide any evidence of working in the field of GCP and continue, and they wish to continue with the certified status, they will have to undergo a retest for surveillance. So if you're working and if you're in the same domain, it is not needed. But say suppose you're certified and you think that it is helping you. So during the surveillance, there will be a retest. And this is the recertification, the renewal of the certificate. As I said, it will be after 5 years. The recertification will be through the same assessment process as the initial certificate. The same procedure will be followed. The PRCB will send the renewal notice to the certified GCP professional at least 6 months before the expiry of the validity period. The certified GCP professional will apply for renewal in a prescribed format. That there is also a format for that. Right now it is not there, but it will come very soon, at least 6 months before the expiry of the certification validity. And the PRCB will review the performance of the certified GCP professionals. I've just mentioned what is the processes, and seeking recertification concerning to the compliance of the certification criteria during the entire certification cycle. So those are all written down. You can also read on the website, download and read the entire document and bring in more clarity. The performance of the certified GCP professional will be reviewed based on surveillance assessment. As I said, it will happen on the 3rd year. If there are anything that needs to be rectified, that corrective actions has to be taken. Any suspension of the certificate during the previous validity period, any complaints received, feedback on his professional services to be obtained by the PRCB. The PRCB will keep a track of these certified people whom they have certified, and therefore it is very important that if somebody is relocating, they have to inform the PRCB. Then feedback reports from the institution where the certified GCP professionals are employed, and if applicable, to be obtained by the relevant people or any other adverse information. So these are all the things that before the recertification process starts, the PRCB will look into it. And there is a condition of suspension. I've briefly mentioned that in my previous slides. And the PRCB will issue instruction to the GCP professionals for suspension with due notice. It is not all of a sudden they can't do it. Again, this has been written down and they have to notify them. They have to tell them, and they have to give the reasons why it is being suspended and what is the process that is to be followed. Everything will be informed to the certified personnel by the PRCB. And if there is a cancellation, that is also written down, why the certificate and under which conditions the certificates are to be cancelled. So they have signed the agreement, and if there is anything which contravenes the terms and condition of the certifications or anything which needs to be done. So these are all the requirements, and they will look into it. It is not that randomly a certificate can be cancelled. Every process has to be followed, even by the PRCB, and the PRCB, how they are functioning, that also is looked into by the scheme owners. So everybody is having an oversee of the other person. So this is how the entire process of certification works. And there is a certification fee, and this will be charged, and the certification fee is on the THSTI website. It can be seen from there, and the application form can be downloaded either from the THSTI website or from the PRCB website. As I said, the PRCB or even the scheme owners, they have processes of handling complaints and appeals. And this also has a detailed procedure, and that needs to be followed. This is more or less what is the certification process is all about, but I presume there will be more questions because 20 minutes or a little bit more of that is not enough to just make everybody understand. So we will be too happy to answer or any queries coming up. So for the time being, I thank all of you for your interest. And I also thank the speakers here to make
Thank
it
you
more
so
interesting.
much. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much, Dr. Devjani, for taking the session earlier than the scheduled time. And it was really nice to hear you every time on the certification process because it requires a vast knowledge and experience to share such good knowledge with all. Now I invite Dr. Sanish. He is already there. He's the technical committee member for GCPPCS, and he will be taking minimum standard of competence. His slides are already there on the screen. Is it visible to all? Dr. Sucheta, please confirm. Oh, okay, no problem.
Yeah, it's visible. Can you make it
And
full screen?
yeah.
Dr. Sanish?
Dr.
Yeah.
Sanish is also visible. Yeah, Please, sir,
Okay.
please start. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And my apologies to everyone for, you could say, some technical challenges at my end. So on behalf of THSTI, I would like to present the minimum standard of competence, which will be termed as the MSc for the GCPPCS certification scheme. For disclaimer, these are opinions and views that we have collated with regards to the program. And of course, on an individual basis, as well as you could say, representing THST, I do not have any other conflict of interest. So we developed the first version of the minimum standards of competence in 2020. Quickly, we actually got several responses from, you could say, different quarters across the country on the MSc, and then a version which was a revised one, which was brought out in 2021. The introduction and scope is well known. This is also in line with what the DTAB, which is the Drugs and Technical Advisory Board, had endorsed for the adoption of GCP guidelines for streamlining clinical trials in India. So this was in 2001. But subsequent to that, we don't have any, you could say, way to assess whether what a professional who's working in this field should be trained, or how should that person be certified in order to ensure that that person is discharging his or her duties according to the requirements of GCP. And moreover, in a country like India, where the workforce actually requires an influx of newly qualified professionals, and also the fact that people who have been working in this field for several years, their competence and skills have to be enhanced through various professional development activities. And that's where the competence in clinical skills, whether it is the skills, the knowledge, or the application of that knowledge, becomes important to be tested or to be observed. And hence, if the competencies are observable, they can also be measured and assessed so that that can be used for both testing newly qualified professionals as well as professionals who have been in the field for several years. Currently, there are no agreed set of core competencies upon which educational programs or training requirements for either entry-level professionals or those who are already undergoing continuous professional development can be based or assessed. And that's where the scheme actually comes in. This is a self-directed, practice-based learning rather than supervised training. We understand that there could be several people who have several years of experience in GCP, but how do we know that the experience as well as the knowledge is of the right, you could say, kind, so that a person can actually be tested. And once tested, the person can be stated as a GCP professional certified at a basic level. So that's the overall intent of the minimum standards of competence of GCPPCS. Now, Dr. Devjani also talked about the different core competence areas. So we have identified, or the scheme owners have identified 6 core competence areas which have to be tested in order for a person to be stated as GCP professional. These are the areas of protocol, investigational product development, as well as the regulations associated with it. Ethical considerations for patient safety and well-being. This is more like the engine of the whole, you could say, scheme. The clinical study operations and the related activities in the operations part. And then project management with regards to both the study and site-related project management. And then, of course, as we all know, clinical research is not just about collecting data. It is also about analyzing the data, making sense of the data, as well as then providing outputs from that data. So data management and informatics is also important. Now, many of you who are already attending this would have in some way done clinical research in some form, whether it is observational studies, whether it is interventional studies, or real-world evidence studies, etc. So you would know the importance of the protocol. Within the clinical research domain, what a professional is expected to know is the scientific concepts behind the protocol design, etc. So how does a person say what is the need, the rationale, the objectives of the trial or the research? What are endpoints? How do you define primary, secondary, exploratory endpoints and the outcomes that are there? Identify what is the rationale or the clinically important question, which is also your hypothesis. Explain some of the key elements with regards to the protocol, including the statistical underpinning of the protocol, epidemiological information that is needed for answering a question, and of course, operational aspects of the protocol design, etc. A person who's a professional also would need to have some knowledge of pathophysiology, pharmacology, toxicology, etc., because these are important to actually integrate the preclinical knowledge or even earlier clinical study knowledge into writing a protocol. But at no time is there an expectation that the person has to fully know everything about the science of writing the protocol. That need not always be the requirement for a professional. The second core domain is on the investigational product, both the development as well as the guidelines. So GCP itself defines, you could say, a professional has to know when the drug is being made, how is it made, how is it shipped, how is it received, how is it used, how is it reconciled, and then, of course, even how it is, you could say, either it is destroyed, or it is, you could say, there is retention samples that are there, or it is, you could say, taken back into the same, you could say, manufacturing plant from where it was shipped back. So describe the roles and responsibility of all these different stakeholders within the investigational product development process. What are the different activities, including a basic understanding of GMP, which is involved in the life cycle management of a medicinal product. Summarize what are some of the current regulatory requirements with regards to IP management. Describe the specific processes and phases necessary to seek marketing authorization. And then, of course, how do you report safety when there is a investigational product that is there? Ethical consideration, which is basically what an investigator or any other person who's involved in a clinical research should take care so that the patient safety and well-being is upheld. So a little bit of historical events that led to the evolving of ethical guidelines and regulatory process. So here you would actually have knowledge about, you could say, the Declaration of Helsinki, or you could say all the issues that happened with thalidomide, or even during the Nazi time, the Belmont Report, and then subsequently all these other events which happened, which led to codification of all these ethical principles as well as regulatory processes. Understanding what we mean by human participant protection, right? And what is there in the national and international guidelines about that? What do you mean by clinical equipoise or therapeutic misconception from the perspective of doing a clinical trial? Explain concepts with regards to the importance of inclusion-exclusion criteria and how it has an impact on patient selection as well as safety, sample size, and other criteria that are used for protection of human participants in the study. What do you mean by vulnerable population, and what additional safeguards have to be in place for vulnerable population. Because it's India, you'll also have to know, have basic knowledge about the audio video recording of the informed consent process, the storage of that information, who can access it, etc. And then the key aspects of the ICF or the informed consent, reimbursement for participation. What does compensation statements have in our regulations, the NDCT rules and others that are there. Then coming into actually running a program or running a study. So if you look at clinical study operations, these are all the roles and responsibilities that you have to identify for the investigational team. So this could be whether it is a sponsor, ethics committee, etc. Design, conduct and document what happens during a clinical trial. A lot more information about AESA, causality management and compensation and others. Control, handling, and dispensing of IP if it is not covered in the earlier sections. Roles and process for the clinical study monitoring, whether it is through a CRA or whether it is through a medical monitor, etc. All these are actually done. Audits and inspections and others are also important from this perspective. Understand also post-marketing activities with regards to conducting the trial. The fifth domain is what actually happens at the site. So this is the study and site management related activities. So who are the people who are involved, the infrastructure that is needed, the finances that are necessary for conducting clinical research at the study site. How does a sponsor, whether it is a institution which is doing clinical research, or you could say it is a sponsor, external sponsor who is actually selecting a site, how does the process of site selection happens? How do you develop a financial, you could say a budget for conducting a study at a site? What is the timelines and what are the cross-disciplinary personnel who are required for that? Apply all these other concepts of management which are interlinked within running a study with a site. Understand basics of clinical project management. And then, of course, all the legal responsibilities with regards to contracts, what issues and liabilities can happen, what happens if there is a breach of the contract, how do you actually handle investigators or sites which fabricate data, all these procedures, documentation and oversight that is required. And last but not the least, it is also important for any clinical research professional to understand the basics of data management, bioinformatics or biostatistics, etc. How data is acquired and managed during a clinical research. What do you mean by source data? What is data entry queries that are raised, quality control. What do you mean by database lock? You could say the database be reopened after a database lock? What happens when there is unblinding? So many of these things which you could say talk about the role of a clinical data management person, biostatistician, etc. The typical flow of data throughout the trial, and then of course all the quality assurance and others that are there. So these 6 domains are actually comprising the minimum standards of competence that are there. The scheme owners also looked at whether a person can be looked at whether they can perform their role at a basic or an advanced level. So we identified all the roles or domains within clinical research. So these could include investigator, project manager, clinician, social worker, regulator, etc. And we looked at all these different domains that are there and said that can somebody actually at do these stuff at a basic level or at a advanced level? And then we kind of like put together this matrix which actually gives the level. Now, when we come to assessment of, you could say, whether a professional is competent in one of these domains, we then have to split it into sub-competencies. What we mean by sub-competencies are that if a particular action has to be performed, how do we actually be able to assess whether the person is able to either initiate that action, assist in that action, acknowledge that that action leads to a particular effect, or even sometimes even be able to discuss or describe or organize or distinguish. These are some of the terminologies that are used to actually define interpretation of the sub-competencies. And many of these are all, you could say, the English definitions of certain things. Like, for example, what do you mean when we say that we can observe that a clinical research professional can, you could say, describe how a protocol is written? So that is a sub-competency or the knowledge that you're assessing for that person. And using this framework, we also developed how do you evaluate the knowledge and skills in each of these areas. So for example, if you look at, you could say, the domain of protocol, the sub-competency would mean, say, apply the principles of biomedical science to clinical research. So for example, a clinical GCP professional would be able to recognize that whenever you write a protocol, you need to have a rationale and a clear need as to why you're doing the study. Similarly, that person who should be able to explain what are the different steps of the protocol, that it starts with a need, a rationale, then a justification for why we are doing that study, and then, of course, all the way down to statistical analysis, etc. Similarly, if you're looking at, you could say, within the site and you could say management or the project management part, say, for example, if a professional, whether the person can recognize the differences between all these different terms, like what is an adverse event, what is an adverse drug reaction, what is a serious adverse event, or what is the causality assessment. So recognizing the differences between these different terminologies, what happens when there is an SAE, or what all do you have to do when there is an SAE at the site based on the NDCT 2019 regulations, because that is under which the person has to do it. So that is the way that a clinical research professional will be, you could say, be assessed. And for this assessment, all these different documentations or the regulations and guidelines have been looked at, including the ICH GCP, the R2 ones. The R3 has just come in. Hopefully, when it becomes like a full-fledged guideline, then maybe we can also incorporate that. We also look at what is there in the Joint Task Force for Competency Research, which was created by, you could say, the Harvard, you could say, unit of that organization. So with that, thank you for all these, you could say, your patient listening. Happy to take any questions. Maybe let me just directly go to the chat if there are any questions which are there. One question, there will be a brief explanation about GCP. Yes, of course, GCP is the thing. I'll let, you could say, Sucheta or Sonia answer the question on what is the fees for certification. Yeah, I don't see there are any other questions. So Dr. Sujeta has answered the question based
Thank you so
on what.
much, sir, for the session. We'll be starting the Q&A.
Yeah.
As of now, we are just on time.
Yeah.
So, so long, have you joined? Hello. Because I've already maintained a database. I'll start to share the screen. Just a minute.
Yes, Sonia, I'm here. Hello.
Yeah. So we can take one by one. Can you see my screen, all of you?
Yes.
Yeah. So these are the questions as of now we have received. There are 17 questions. Some of them are repetitive also, but I write down all the questions. So
Sure.
George is also there. So we can start addressing the questions one by one.
Yeah, so maybe
Yeah.
I can take the first one, Sonia.
Yeah. Please, sir. Please, sir. Please.
So
Please.
can you explain the importance of informed consent in compliance with GCP standards? Yes, so informed consent, like I said, is the heart and soul of the whole GCP enterprise. And within the domains, so one of the domains is how do you ensure that the patient safety and you could say comfort is taken care of. So here is where a GCP professional will be assessed on their understanding of the informed consent process in line with what is there in the current regulations, whether it is in the NDCT rules or whether it is there in the ICMR guidelines of 2017 with regards to consent process. Second is there a validity period for the certificate? Should we have to undergo evaluation and renew it from time to time? I think Sonia or Sucheta, do you want to take it?
We'll have a session for this when our NECU team speaks. I think we will reserve the question for that. Right?
So
Yeah.
Cheta, we
Sonia?
can go on answering questions are simple. Let's not wait for anything.
And
I just wanted
Salome
Shalom
is
to
there.
be
Yeah,
on the
Salome is
same
there.
Jani or
page.
Salome can
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Shalome is
Salome.
just joined and I wanted to reserve it so that she can answer.
I think this was already explained, but even if beyond that, if they need anything, they can ask.
Yeah, so it's 5 years, and yes, you will be reevaluated.
Yeah.
after.
This has been explained.
Yeah.
Dispose of
Uh,
questions as quickly as we can.
Does the
Actually,
professional like
yeah.
like
Yeah,
an
actually,
MBBS?
so the fees has been revised. Salome, can you please stress on the fact
Explain.
that you have,
Haan.
yeah. Can you
They
please stress
worked on the
fact
time
that,
frame and the
yeah,
fees.
Yes. Because in my opinion, they have reduced the fees to 6,500, which is valid up to 1 year only. So they have to renew it after 1 year. So Salome, can you stress on the fact that am I correct here, or you just received a message from her? Just let me check what is she saying.
Oh,
So we can take the questions. This question we can
She's
reserve.
on mute. She's on mute. We have to unmute her first.
yeah.
Just a minute.
So some of the other questions which I'll continue.
Yeah.
does the
Please continue.
professional,
Please continue,
like an
Dr. Sanesh.
like an MBBS or postgraduate doctor like me, or an engineer or a postdoc need GCs mandatorily for any clinical research. So what we maintain is that any of these certification process usually starts as you could say a voluntary activity, right? I mean, the government or others cannot bring in something which is mandatorily at the start of any new, you could say, process. Slowly and slowly, I think when everyone in the system, every stakeholder gains more confidence, then slowly the next steps come up that if somebody is doing a particular activity, how trained or how well trained that person is. So right now it is not mandatory, but slowly I think we want to move into a place where there is compliance and where what we are doing is all according to GCP requirement. Or GCP certification where we need to go. So obviously,
NECU.
I think, yeah,
NECU.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's the best answer for this.
Can you put the Sonia or can you put the email ID of NECU on the chat so that
Yes, sir.
everybody?
Yes, sir. Please,
Yeah.
please. I'll do it. Just give me a minute.
Yeah.
So it is there. It is there. Yeah.
Okay, if you can look at, so the fees and others have already been stated several times, so there are repetition which is there. There is a question number 18, how are AE and SAE managed and reported in accordance to GCP guidelines? So this is exactly one of the reasons why a GCP professional has to know how to report, how to recognize, report, and ensure that all documentation for this is done. So that is well covered in both GCP guidelines as well as the NDCT rules. Is this for basic knowledge or idea or brief explanation of entire GCP? So this is a process of ensuring that a professional can be certified. So that's the whole intent about GCPPCS. What will be the advantage of having this certification? So Mr. Jowhary has very clearly laid out how you could say in the different fields, having a certification process actually enables, you could say, that professional to say very confidently that, yes, I have been trained and I have been assessed in this particular field. Clearly, I think going forward, this is where GCPPCS is also heading, that anyone who's working in the field of GCP, whether it is in clinical trials or clinical research, would be able to kind of like state that they have been trained and certified and qualified, etc. PRCB, I think we have actually stated that. Where I have to
Yeah,
go
it is
back.
personal certification body and
Correct.
that Northeast corporate. And I've mentioned the PRCB, which is NICU, in the message box also, and it is evident on the screen itself that PRCB PR 006.ac.in. if
Yeah.
things that they are trained in are not, they have equipped knowledge about GCP, they can directly contact TB, which is NICU.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so that answers several questions, and the other questions are mainly about the fees, etc., which we have covered. So I think we can go to the next session.
So next session is Q&A only. Now from now onwards, we will be taking questions only.
So all questions have been answered in terms of
So
what is
most of them are repeat. There's one more
so advantages we have said
session, I think.
applicable fee has
GCP
been
certification
cleared,
is now mandatory
name
as
of
per
PRCB
NMC, National
cleared.
Medical Commission.
There's one question, 15 certificate issued by an organization called the Global Health Network. Any idea anyone has?
So Global Health Network is an online platform where you can take the certifications. I believe, Dr. Sanish can correct me and others, that they do not cover CDACO's GCP guidelines. They do not cover NDCT rules also. So that is not fit for India specifically. It is okay for global trials. Sanish, could you add to this?
Whereas we cover both global standards as well as CDSU, so we are suitable for both the places.
That's correct, because we use as reference ICH-GCP, the E6R2, which means that we are, you could say, judging people not just against the Indian regulations, but also against the global regulations that are there.
So I've requested Salom, she'll come and join and tell everyone about the fee structure and the validity also. So this might cover most of the queries, I guess.
Yeah, so we can invite Salome to say a few words and
yeah,
explain.
she's coming because most of the questions are like this. What is the fees for certification? Yeah, what would be the fee structure for applying and getting the certification? So these are the questions.
Hi, Shalome. Has she been unmuted? Yeah, she's unmuted.
Yes, ma'am.
Over to you, Dr. Shalome.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for this time. So I would like to inform everyone that NICU, we have revised the application fee. So the fee is now 6,500, and this fee is applicable for the first year for 1 year period, and this will be open for review and revision after 1 year. So Sonia has already provided the email link at the bottom of the in the page over here. So whoever is interested, they can write to us. We will send you the application form, and then we'll send you the fee details as well as the certification flow chart and the application process as well.
Thank you, Salome, for the fees revision, and it was I think it's a kind of a relief for everyone who was troubled by the fee structure earlier. And like as of now, we were getting the inquiries related to request rather than inquiries to reduce the fees, and you have reduced it for the better.
This revision has been done based on the feedback that we received over the several webinars that we had.
See, our agenda for this webinars, this series of webinars, is to create awareness, at the same time to know where we are lacking and where we can improve.
Yes, and then one more is, I think it was about the duration of the certification. So the duration of the certification is 5 years. And in the 5-year period, you'll also have surveillance assessment as well in between.
Oh, that's great. That's a great.
So, Dr. Shalome, can you just say in very few words what exactly will be done during surveillance for the people who have never are not aware from this area, not from quality field, to know about surveillance?
Surveillance is more or less to check whether the quality has been maintained, whether the standard has been maintained or not.
Okay. It's part of quality assurance.
Yes.
Yeah, and we can stress on one more thing, Salome, that some of the people, they think that it's a certification course. Like certificate, it's not a course. It's a program. It's a certification program.
Yes, that should be clear that it's not a training course. It's a evaluation of your knowledge and skills as prescribed under the scheme by NECU through a written examination.
Yeah, it is totally voluntary.
There is no prerequisite of training. There is no prerequisite of any education
Yes.
or any experience. If you think you meet the requirement, you can meet the requirement of the competence standard explained by Dr. Sanish, you are free to
Yeah.
come to NECU, get yourself evaluated and get certified.
Just
Yes.
just in addition, we have been getting some queries, and then after we send all the application form and others, they get back to us saying that they don't have time to go through the course. So
Yeah.
we just want to make it clear that this is not a course. They don't have to undergo any course as such. This is a certification program. You apply, you fill up the application form, you pay the fees, and then you sit for the examination. And then you get certificate based on the evaluation process that is carried out. So just a reminder to everyone again that this is not a course. This is a certification program.
Yeah. So one more query is there. Is certification is free. Why can't the DBT DHSTI can bring an online program?
Dr. Saurav, I just wanted to tell you again
Yeah.
is that our is not a training program. NIDA's GCP is a training program. It's an online GCP program. Do not get confused with doing an online course and getting a certificate, and don't get confused with the certification of that and this. This certification is based on ISO 17024, which is a personal certification
Yes.
based. And again, I will reiterate what I just said about global health. The NIDA is for US. It doesn't include our new drugs and clinical trial rules. It doesn't include our ICMR's national ethical guidelines. So please be cognizant when you use a GCP certificate and use it in India. NIDA is fine for
Plus
US.
one more thing I would like to address here, that we don't know whether it's accepted worldwide or not. The validity. We are not sure of the validity of NIDA, like what kind of validity they provide.
Yeah.
One more question is there. What is the mode of examination? So Nom, this is for you.
The mode of examination will be online.
Yeah. So any other questions? Any other questions? Because most of them are answered already. If anything we have left, like one more thing is there. How are addressed adverse events and serious managed and reported in accordance.
So that
This
I
is
think
18th. This is
yeah,
18th question. Yeah, we have already. Yeah.
took.
Yes. So most of the questions are repeat.
I'll request Shri Jauri ji if he can please come on board and have an overview about this.
Which
and
one?
For giving a concluding remarks, if there are any, I don't see more questions coming up.
Yeah,
so,
ma'am. So I think.
All right.
Thank you.
So let me first thank all the audience which has been here and has participated and asked so many questions, which is good for us. That shows the level of interest. So thank you very much, all of you who have been listening to all the presentations. Thank you, all the resource persons, Dr. Sanish, Dr. Devjani, Dr. Sucheta, Dr. Nandini, and Sonia, who is holding the fort as the secretariat of GCPPCS. As you should have understood by now, this is a certification scheme. It relies on a competence standard which has been defined. The competence for GCP has been defined. If you meet that competence, you can go to a designated personal certification body and get certified after evaluation. Evaluation, as was explained, is an online written examination. In case you need training, you can go to a training organization, any training organization. We have not specified any. However, we do have a provision of recognizing some training institutions so that you can be assured of the quality of training. And right now we have one National Institute of Health and Family Welfare, I think, as the training institution. You can certainly go there and have training. But training is not a prerequisite. Please remember that. If you think you can meet the requirement of the competence standard, which is clearly defined, downloadable from GCPPCS website of THSTI. If you think you have all the knowledge that is defined there, please go ahead and you take the examination straight away. There's no need for any training or any other step. So with this, I hope it's clear to you that this is a certification scheme based on knowledge and skills and evaluation. It's not a training program. You do not have to undergo any training if you think you can meet the standard and you can get certified. If you need training, there are some training institutions which are there in the market. You are free to go to any of them. We are trying to get some training institution on board so that we can assure you that the training is competent in the
Yes.
current situation. We have one training institution, National Institute of Health and Family Welfare. We have one personal certification body, Northeast Christian University. So these
Yes.
resources are available to you. Sonia is always available. You can always send in a query to Sonia to answer to you.
Yeah. Yes,
And
sir.
you're
I'll mention my email ID also in the comment box.
Yeah. So her email ID is also on the chat box.
One more question is there, sir. Will it be on MCQ type?
Salome, I think will answer
Salome
that.
is the best person to answer this question.
Yes. Yes, it would be MCQ type actually.
Yeah.
Yes, the questions will be MCQ.
Yeah. So with that, I think we can conclude this webinar. Thank you very much again and have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the support. I also thank all the speakers for the wonderful lectures and wonderful knowledge which they gave during the webinar, and wonderful audience to give such responses and questions and queries every time we get a chance to improve ourselves. Thank you all. Thank you, Jory ji. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I would like to
Thank you so
thank
much,
all
sir.
530 registration
Yes.
participants,
Yes.
both over Zoom as well as YouTube,
Yeah.
because they spend their valuable time in attending this, and of course the entire
Yeah.
team of GCPPCS.
Yes, and
Thank you from
this is the email ID, which is gcppcs.cdsa@thhsti.res.in. You can write your inquiries which are left unsaid here, or maybe
In the chat box, NIHFW has also
they have
put in
also they have also
the
come
email
up.
ID as well as the mobile number. So
Yes.
you can note that down.
good afternoon,
Please.
Dr. Rajesh Ranjanji. I can see NIHFW joining.
Yeah.
We have actually completed all the questions. Ranjanji, I do not know whether you were lucky enough to earlier join and listen to the questions. There was few questions mostly on the PRCB part.
Yeah,
For the
PRCB part.
yeah.
Most of them were on the PRCB part. And for the next session, we would like to take their
Can you
20 minutes
unmute?
also.
Can you unmute him, because he is requesting him to
Yeah, just I'm trying. Just give
Hi,
me.
good afternoon, everyone. I was having a PSC
Yeah.
meeting, joined little late, but yeah, I could
No problem,
listen
sir.
most
No
of them,
problem.
and I'm available for any kind of queries. I have put my contact number and as well as email ID, so I'm there.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ranjanji.
Thank you, ma'am.
So see you in the next webinar if anybody has any queries or your colleagues have any queries. So till then, all the best, and thank you. Namaskar and Jai Hind from all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you so much.